I'm going to continue reading this book. It's probably challenging for some people to listen to somebody read, but I'm a big fan of this book. I think this is where you're going to find truth. I ain't seeing truth anywhere. I'm seeing a lot of focus on problems, very little on solutions, and for some reason the driving force behind me just says, just read. That's all I need to do this year, is just read and focus on my own opportunities that are showing up in my own life. So I'm going to keep reading. I hope everybody else, I'm getting, quite a few people are actually enjoying the book. So it does get so much more interesting. So here goes. From this chart, which I showed the chart in the last tape, from this chart it can be seen that holodynamic consciousness theory provides an inclusive framework that includes all the mechanisms of consciousness. It is a model that allows the exploration of hyperspatial domains where parallel worlds, specific potentials, such as the potential of each person, quantum potential fields, implicit orders, can be viewed in relationship to other mechanisms and contained within a consistent theoretical framework. Among those who adhere to the quantum view of consciousness, such things as holodynes, microtubules, self-organizing information systems, quantum coherence, Lech frequency, hierarchies of learning, and various aspects of personality are already openly discussed among researchers who hold to this possibility. Their contribution to the field of consciousness studies is remarkable in the last 2 decades. However, because of the newness of this body of research and because of the limitations of quantum physics, this group of researchers has not yet included such things as collective consciousness in field of inquiry, nor have they allowed for the feedback loops coming from parallel worlds into this world and back again. We are still alone in the quantum world, but we are not alone in reality. Clinical psychiatry is another story. Its adherents might allow for the reality of the function of microtubulars, but usually they are so embedded in linear mentalities, labeling chemotherapy and sometimes their own financial securities, that they are heavily resistant to expanding into a system that makes therapy short-term and reality an expression of consciousness. It changes almost everything they have believed. They focus mostly on hierarchies of learning, molecule construction, cellular function, and how this relates to personality. Since Jung, there has been very little added to the body of psychiatry that is really new. That is one of the biggest challenges that I find this guy's having with holodynamics, is the parallel worlds, hyperspace, which is the biggest one. What was it? Parallel worlds is and hyperspatial domains, like that is a hard concept for science to wrap their brains around, and even religion would be against this, and yet it explains religion. Hyperspace. Where does God come from? From hyper, above, space, everywhere. Like, it's just a word. Hyperspace is just a word that religion may not agree with, but where does God come from? Where do you get thoughts from God? When God tells you, when God directs you, when somebody gets inspired to write a Bible, every single thing that religion talks about God, it's like, where does God come from? Hyperspace. Parallel worlds. There's another world that you don't see. Spirit world. Like, it is in so much agreement, but yet in disagreement. And yet when you tap into this new knowledge, some people will call it New Age, but it's an observation of things we haven't been able to understand. But now people are starting to understand it, and in order to explain it, we have to have new words to describe it, and those words are going to be, I think this is what people get offended by in calling it New Age, but I don't see it as New Age. I think it's new science, it's new understanding, they're new labels, and if an awareness of things we don't see end up, at the end of the day, if it ends up curing mental illness, if it ends up curing physical health problems that are said by the medical world as impossible to cure, yet it's been proven for 20, 30 years to be curable without medication, without high profits, isn't it worth knowing? If it works, how can you deny that it works? But will you get a peer pressure? Will you get anybody believing it? No, because that means that everything that you do is wrong. That means how you earn your living is wrong now. Selling pills is wrong now. How many people are earning their living doing the wrong thing? They're not about to change what they believe to be true if they knew that they were going to lose their jobs. So I think that's one of the most relevant things about this holodynamics, and why you don't hear about it. It's because we don't want to hear about it, because this would be truth, and everything we're living that we're complaining about is a lie. To jump into the truth means you got to make a completely different shift. I mean, you got to be doing something completely different. You got to be making your living. You got to be spending your money. You got to be living your life completely different. And we don't tend to want to do that easy. So that's the challenge with holodynamics. But I'll continue reading. The same appears true for clinical psychology. This popular school of psychology will admit to the existence of an internal identity or personality. They will, when pushed, admit to the possibility this internal personality may be considered as a potential self. But, like their psychiatric brothers, they focus mainly on internal information systems and seek to find the physical mechanisms that store and process information. They usually view family and society as input stimuli that are initially controlled by neuronets. Most psychology practitioners, such as psychotherapists, fall into this same school of thought. Those who are self-referencing can usually fathom the concept of the full potential self. Even though it's not evident in their literature, they might even agree to holodynes, microtubes, and self-organizing information systems. They focus upon hierarchies of learning that are under stress and are therefore dysfunctional in the personality. They hope that therapy will create learning environment in which the system will self-correct. That's why I never found any help in the medical world. I mean, it's almost like I knew too much. And sitting in with any type of medical doctor, I had good questions. So when they would give me advice, I would say, well, why would I want to do that? Wouldn't that do me more harm? And they'd have to agree with me. I've never found a doctor that disagreed with me or said that anything I was saying was illogical. And I found to conclude that the medical world, the psychiatric field, is, in general, will only teach you how to cope and deal. It is definitely not about solving any problems. It's more of, well, if that bothers you, why look at it? Don't look at it, then it won't bother you, basically. or life is tough, life is unfair, what are you going to do? You can't change the world. It's an acceptance that the world is unfair, the world is cruel, the world is out to get you. So how can you live your best life knowing all of that? Like, I just find that world totally dysfunctional. Yet this information is the one information that makes perfect sense. Developmentalists can believe in a full potential self, and that is, it's emerging according to such instinctive capacity according to specific stages of development. It is not too great a leap of faith for them to conceptualize an implicate order, holodynes and microtubes. Oh, I think I just read that. They get enthusiastic about self-organizing information systems and hierarchies of learning. This is their home field of interest. They can, in some cases, extend this interest to personality development, relationships, family, and into social systems. A few have taken it further into values, ethics, principles, and even into the theoretical position of universality. It is the social psychiatrist who applies these theoretical schools into solving the problems of everyday life. The social psychologist can accumulate the possibility of quantum potential fields because the only way a social psychologist can solve problems is by searching for the potential that can be unfolded. It's the solution to the problem. Holodynes, microtubes, cubes, and hierarchies of learning are all acceptable but not hold any special priority of interest. This group drives straight into the personality of relationships, family, and social systems for solutions. Often principle-driven and universal, their main focus is on solutions. I certainly identify with their what works approach to life, but life cannot be limited to this approach. Life is much more intricate and fascinating. At the other end of the continuum are spiritualists. Spiritualists believe in parallel worlds, that's what I was saying, and often highlight their day by recounting some experiences that made manifest some insight or influence from a parallel world. They might even allow the idea of quantum potential and an implicit order seen as the laws of nature or the laws of God. They have a variety of processes for handling demons, usually get rid of them, and other types of holodynes, but are not inclined to understand the mechanisms or procedures of consciousness. Their focus is mainly on the wave dynamics as polarized with particle dynamics. They often seek to save the world from particle thinkers. Subtle energy adherents have a similar climb. Focused mainly upon wave dynamics, they extol the essence of the individual full potential self and seek to move the energy from the quantum potential field into the body. They might fathom the concept of the implicit order, but usually will jump from there to body to universality. Their function seems to be to move energy from universal mind to body and back again, which they hope facilitates health and well-being. I could not find a school of thought that included every aspect known regarding the nature of consciousness. Thus, I created a more inclusive model, which I call holodynamic, model of consciousness. By defining holodynamics means the study of the whole dynamic. This approach is an invitation to all schools to include more of what is known about consciousness. As the chart shows, holodynamics includes every aspect of consciousness known so far. By its own definition, as more information comes in, the new information will automatically be included. So that's basically what holodynamics is it takes all sciences that helps us understand what the hell is going on. Spiritualism, well, we've gone down the list. all of it included gives you a picture of what the hell is going on. This is the only science that includes all of it. That's why I think it's relevant. I'll continue on another